Scattered across the earth, there are structures that were never supposed to exist, monuments that were carved in silence by civilizations that we barely understand, and in some cases we can't even name them. They left no books, no scrolls, no recorded language, just stone, cut, lifted, and placed with methods that seem impossible for their time. These aren't the famous wonders you've seen in textbooks. Today's video is about 15 amazing structures that you haven't even heard about, built by strange civilizations that were lost to time. Let's begin with number 15, the Osirion of Abydos in Egypt. In the shadow of the grand temple of Seti I at Abydos, buried beneath layers of Nile salt and time, lies a structure that defies easy categorization. It's known as the Osirion. This mysterious subterranean monument stands apart from the soaring elegance of classical Egyptian temple architecture. Instead, it's dark, sunken, and monolithic. It was constructed with stone blocks of such size and weight that they rival those at Giza. For decades, the Osirion has puzzled archaeologists with one nagging question: why does it look older than everything around it? Well, the Osirion was discovered in the early 20th century by British archaeologist Flinders Petrie, who noticed the extreme contrast between it and the nearby temple, a refined structure from the 13th century BCE. The Osirion, by contrast, resembled something from a different age, a megalithic crypt of blocks some weighing more than 60 tons, arranged in a rectangular trench that was sunk into the earth. Now, what immediately struck scholars was the rudimentary megalithic style. It's just massive granite blocks placed with precision, forming walls and supports in a style not typically associated with the New Kingdom in Egypt. It looked more like something from an old kingdom, or even before that. The structure is composed primarily of red granite from Aswan, transported hundreds of kilometers south of Cairo and hauled uphill towards Abydos. There is no clear documentation of how this was accomplished. The central feature of the Osirion is a sunken chamber with a pool of water, perpetually filled by the groundwater table. Surrounded by massive granite pillars, this symbolism of water, death, and rebirth has led many to believe that this site was dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld. The controversy, though, arises from the dating of this area. While mainstream Egyptologists classify the Osirion as part of Seti I's reign, some suggest the megalithic foundation may predate the temple itself. The lack of extensive inscriptions on the blocks, highly unusual for Egyptian structures, adds to this mystery. Normally, every surface of a New Kingdom temple would be covered in hieroglyphs. Here, the stone is largely blank. Another feature that's intrigued researchers is the cutting technique used. The flatness and polish of some granite blocks rival modern machining, yet there are no tool marks typical of copper chisels or pounding stones. This has led some to speculate about the lost techniques or tools, though no evidence of advanced machining has ever been found. Whatever its origins, the Osirion stands as a unique anomaly in the Egyptian archaeological record. It's a temple that looks more like a megalithic fortress, a funerary structure built with engineering principles far older than its neighbors. And if it was indeed constructed earlier, that would place it among the most ancient megalithic sites in the world. Today, the Osirion remains partially submerged, accessible only through guided visits, and still largely unexplored due to preservation challenges and its fragile condition. As long as it sits half-flooded and half-buried, it will continue to whisper questions to every archaeologist who wanders through its waterlogged corridors. Number 14, the Sacsayhuaman Fortress. Above the city of Cusco in Peru rests one of the most mind-bending stone structures in the world, Sacsayhuaman, a megalithic citadel constructed by the Inca civilization, and still today one of the greatest engineering puzzles on Earth. Walls made of massive interlocking stone blocks, some weighing as much as 200 tons, are fitted together with such astonishing precision that a piece of paper couldn't fit between them. There's no mortar, no steel reinforcement, just raw stone, shaped, tilted, and balanced like a 3D puzzle, placed with techniques that we don't still fully understand. Now, Sacsayhuaman was built in the 15th century during the height of the Inca Empire, under the rule of Pachacuti and his successors. The structure is located over 3,700 meters above sea level, and the effort required to move, carve, and position these stones was difficult to overstate. Some stones were quarried more than 20 kilometers away and then transported uphill without the use of wheel or draft animals, and this has led many to ask, how? While there are theories, the Incas likely used copper chisels, hammers, wooden levers, ramps, and sledges, along with sophisticated understandings of geometry and balance. But the most important part of this site is the zigzagging walls, 3 tiers of massive stones fitted in a lightning bolt pattern designed not just for defense, but to absorb seismic shock. Peru is a highly active earthquake zone, and the Incas clearly understood seismic engineering. While modern buildings in Cusco have repeatedly collapsed in earthquakes, Sacsayhuaman has endured for over 500 years. But beyond its engineering, this place was spiritually significant. It was used for ceremonial events, solar rituals, and possibly even military strategy. The design and symbolism baked into the structure suggest not just engineering intelligence, but a holistic worldview that combined architecture, religion, and astronomy. Today, visitors walk the giant terraces, marveling at the silent testimony of stones that defy age and weather. Some of the blocks are so large, modern cranes would struggle to move them. Yet there they are, placed with such precision that many haven't shifted even a millimeter in centuries. Sacsayhuaman is not a mystery in the sense of being alien, but it is undeniably strange. It's a work of civilization that, with limited technology by modern standards, reached heights of precision and grandeur that still command amazement today. Number 13. The Hypogeum. Hidden beneath a quiet street in the town of Paula, Malta, lies one of the most ancient sites ever discovered, the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, carved entirely underground over 5,000 years ago. And no one knows exactly how or even why it was built. The Hypogeum, Greek for underground, was discovered in 1902 by construction workers digging foundations for a new housing project. What they found was a vast complex of chambers, passageways, altars, and tombs, sculpted with near geometrical perfection into the soft limestone. At its deepest, it descends more than 10 meters underground, with 3 main levels connected by winding staircases and curving halls. Archaeologists believe it was constructed around 3600 BCE by the same culture that built Malta's surface temples. But the Hypogeum is unlike any other site in Europe. It is fully subterranean. It shows no signs of quarrying debris or chisel marks. Instead, the limestone appears smooth and shaped, as if it was polished by hand or some unknown method. Inside, the atmosphere is eerie. The air is cool and dry. Light doesn't penetrate unless brought in, and yet the structure was intentionally designed to direct sound, light, and movement. One chamber, called the Oracle Room, has acoustic properties that amplify male vocal frequencies, creating a deep, resonant effect that can be felt in the bones of anyone standing nearby. Modern acousticians have tested this room and found its reverberation properties to be uncannily tuned, the kind of design that would be difficult to reproduce without modern modeling software. No one knows how this civilization achieved this. They left behind no written language, they had no metal tools, and yet the Hypogeum suggests an understanding of sound engineering and religious ritual far beyond expectation for its era. The Hypogeum also served as a necropolis. More than 7,000 human remains were found inside, many placed in fetal positions and buried with animal bones, beads, and red ochre. This, combined with the temple-like construction, suggests that it was not just a grave but a spiritual gateway of sorts. The civilization that built it vanished mysteriously around 2500 BCE, and the cause remains unknown. Could be climate change, invasion, internal collapse. But whatever the reason, they left no further structures of this kind behind, and no other Hypogeum has ever been discovered in Malta or beyond. The Hypogeum is not just an archaeological site, it's a riddle carved in darkness and an example of a civilization with no known name, no known texts, and engineering sensibilities that we fully still can't decode. Number 12. The Gobekli Tepe enclosures, the world's first temples. In the hills of southeastern Turkey, buried for thousands of years beneath layers of earth and stone, lies one of the most stunning discoveries of the modern era, Gobekli Tepe. With its enormous T-shaped pillars, intricate carvings, and monumental scale, this site has fundamentally rewritten humanity's understanding of civilization. Because Gobekli Tepe isn't just old, it predates Stonehenge by about 6,000 years. It was built at a time when humans weren't supposed to be capable of these things. Radiocarbon dating places its construction around 9600 BCE, making it more than 11,600 years old. That's well before agriculture, before the wheel, before cities, at a time when humanity was still largely composed of mobile hunter-gatherer bands. Many of the pillars are adorned with carvings of animals: foxes, snakes, boars, vultures, lions, and some abstract symbols, many of which represent constellations or mythological entities. There's no signs of domestic life, no hearths, no trash pits, no long-term residences. This wasn't a village, it was a ritual center built for gatherings and perhaps even religious or astronomical functions. But what's astonishing is the level of effort required to build it. The labor, planning, and resource coordination needed to move and erect these stones would have demanded leadership, engineering, and shared cultural meaning. This challenges the standard narrative that religion and large-scale social cooperation only emerged after agriculture. At Gobekli Tepe, it appears to be the other way around. Spiritual or ceremonial organization may have been what sparked the birth of this civilization. The surrounding region has since yielded some additional sites, Karahan Tepe, Sefer Tepe, and others, suggesting that Gobekli Tepe was just one node in a much larger Neolithic spiritual network. It has become a global symbol of humanity's forgotten origins. It stands at the threshold between prehistory and civilization. This is a structure so ancient and complex that it defies a categorization. It's not a city, it's not a tomb, it's not a fort. It's something older than all of them. A place built not to survive, but to remember. And now, uncovered and protected, it tells a story that no one expected. That long before we built pyramids or cathedrals, long before we tamed grain or forged bronze, we were already building temples. Number 11. The Nuraghe of Sardinia. Across the hillsides of the Italian island of Sardinia are thousands of mysterious stone towers, conical megaliths with no direct counterpart anywhere else on Earth. They're known as Nuraghe. These structures were built by a civilization so unique that scholars are still struggling to categorize them. The builders left behind no writing, no known literature, and no cities as we traditionally think of them. What they did leave is over 7,000 megalithic towers, some up to 20 meters tall, made entirely of massive dry-fitted stone blocks. The culture that created them, well, we simply call it the Nuragic civilization. The Nuragic people lived on Sardinia from roughly 1800 BCE to 238 BCE before being absorbed into the Roman Empire. Yet their legacy is so dominant that it still shapes the island's landscape. The largest and most famous site is the Sunaraksi di Barumini, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that features a central tower with multiple layers, inner staircases, corbelled domes, and an outer ring of defensive walls. No one knows exactly what the towers were for. Some suggest they were fortresses, others believe they were religious sites, status symbols, or even community hubs. Inside, the towers contain spiraling staircases, small side chambers, and corbelled ceilings that mirror architectural forms found in places like Mycenae and even in the Caucasus. But with no clear cultural link. The largest towers could have taken years to build and required a coordinated labor force, and their continued use over generations with additions and modifications implies that they were just not utilitarian, they were cultural monuments. Trade evidence reveals Nuragic contact with the Mycenaeans, the Phoenicians, and Carthaginians, but the civilization remained distinct. It didn't urbanize like its neighbors, nor did it adopt any writing systems. Instead, it continued building towers, impressive, enigmatic, and utterly unique. By the time Rome conquered Sardinia, the Nuragic civilization had faded, leaving behind thousands of stone guardians that still stand today. Visitors here often describe the towers as awe-inspiring and alien, echoes of a people who built upwards into mystery and left us with no map to follow. Number 10. The Rock-Hewn churches in Ethiopia. In the Ethiopian highlands, in the town of Lalibela, lies one of the most amazing feats of religious architecture in the world. 11 medieval churches carved entirely out of solid rock. Unlike traditional buildings, which rise from the ground up, these churches were hewn downwards, chiseled into volcanic bedrock, each emerging from the earth as a single form. Built in the 12th and 13th centuries during the reign of King Lalibela, they were intended as a New Jerusalem of sorts for Ethiopian Christians cut off from pilgrimage routes due to Muslim conquests in the Holy Land. The most famous of the churches is known as the Church of St. George, carved in the shape of a perfect cross, descending 12 meters down into the earth. It's accessed by a narrow trench, and its exterior walls are hidden until you're standing above them. Once inside, you realize the entire structure, walls, columns, domes, and altars, was carved from a single block of stone. No bricks, no mortar, just stone shaped by hand. Scholars have long debated how these structures were created. The tools used were likely iron chisels, hammers, and crude plumb lines, but the level of architecture, symmetry, and alignment with religious symbolism suggests some advanced surveying and spatial planning. Legends hold that the churches were built with the help of angels, who continued to work at night while the laborers rested. While no angels can be confirmed, it is clear that construction would have taken tens of thousands of man-hours and required immense organization and religious devotion. The rock type, which is tuff and basalt, is relatively soft, which did help with the precision and uniformity. The results are still amazing, though. This place is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Lalibela remains a living pilgrimage destination. And unlike many ancient structures that serve only as ruins, the rock-hewn churches here are active places of worship. Every January during Timkat, the Epiphany, tens of thousands of Ethiopian Orthodox Christians descend on Lalibela, reenacting the baptism of Christ and celebrating under an open sky. Number 9. The Great Zimbabwe Ruins. In the southeastern hills of Zimbabwe lies a sprawling ancient city that once stood at the center of a vast kingdom. Known today as Great Zimbabwe, it is the largest stone structure south of the Sahara and one of the most important archaeological sites in Africa. Built between the 11th and 15th centuries, this mysterious city challenges conventional narratives about African civilizations, and it raises some deep questions about engineering and cultural identity on the continent. The name Zimbabwe derives from the Shona phrase Zimba Zamabwe, meaning the houses of stone. That depiction is no exaggeration. The city was constructed from millions of granite blocks, stacked without mortar using techniques known as dry stone masonry. The largest and most iconic feature is the Great Enclosure, a massive elliptical wall that stands up to 11 meters or 36 feet high and stretches over 250 meters in circumference. But beyond the Great Enclosure, the site includes the Hill Complex, believed to be the spiritual or political center, and the Valley Ruins, where ordinary citizens may have lived. At its peak, Great Zimbabwe is thought to have supported a population of up to 20,000 people, remarkable for a city in sub-Saharan Africa during the Middle Ages. Despite its clear African origin, though, Great Zimbabwe was at the center of a long-standing historical controversy. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, European colonial scholars refused to believe that such an advanced structure could have been built by black Africans. Instead, they attributed it without evidence to the Phoenicians, Arabs, and even the lost tribes of Israel. These theories have since been thoroughly debunked, and today it's universally recognized that the Shona people built and maintained the city as the capital of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe. Yet for all we do know, much remains a mystery. Why was the site eventually abandoned? Was it environmental collapse, political upheaval, or the result of shifting trade routes? Well, some scholars suggest that overgrazing and deforestation may have played a role. Others believe internal conflict led to the capital being moved northward. Well, whatever the reason, the site was slowly overtaken by vegetation and became shrouded. Today, Great Zimbabwe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the source of national pride. It even lends its name to the country. Tourists who walk its ancient paths are struck by not only the scale of the ruins, but their quiet majesty. There are no massive columns or monumental statuary, only vast stone walls curving in silence beneath the African sky. Number 8. The Coral Castle. In Homestead, Florida, stands one of the strangest structures in the United States. It's known as the Coral Castle. It's a small complex of massive stone carvings and megalithic architecture built entirely by a single man, Edward Leedskalnin, between 1923 and 1951. But what makes it so extraordinary isn't just its eccentricity or artistic flair. It's the fact that Leedskalnin built it entirely by hand without any modern machinery and without ever being seen working. Leedskalnin was a Latvian immigrant, a slight man barely 5 feet tall, weighing about 100 pounds. Heartbroken by the rejection of his fiancée, he moved to Florida and began what would become a lifetime obsession, carving and assembling over 1,100 tons of coral rock, some blocks weighing 15 to 30 tons, into walls, gates, furniture, and monuments. The techniques he used remain unknown. He worked mostly at night and never allowed anyone to observe him in the act. Locals who did catch glimpses described mysterious pulleys, tripods, and chains, but nothing that could account for the movement of stones heavier than those used in the Great Pyramid's inner chambers. One 9-ton gate was so precisely balanced it could rotate with the push of a finger. Leedskalnin claimed he had discovered the secrets of ancient construction, referring vaguely to magnetism and the laws of weight and leverage. But no scientific replication of his technique has ever been successful. What is clear is that the Coral Castle is not just a random pile of stones. It's an intentionally aligned structure, incorporating astronomical features like Polaris telescopes, sun and moon calendars, and a clock calibrated to solar movement. Leedskalnin, though untrained formally, clearly possessed a deep understanding of geometry, stone balancing, and even celestial mechanics. He lived alone in the structure until his death in 1951, and he left behind no detailed construction notes, blueprints, or technical journals. Since then, Coral Castle has become the subject of books, documentaries, and other fringe theories. But even without the mystery, it stands as an example of what a single person can achieve with vision, patience, and an almost incomprehensible level of technical mastery. It is, quite simply, one of the most mysterious constructions in North America, and no one knows exactly how it was built. Moving on to number 7, Nan Madol, the Venice of the Pacific. Off the eastern shore of the island of Pohnpei in the Federated States of Micronesia lies a site so strange, so remote, and so mysterious, it's often been called the Venice of the Pacific. But unlike Venice, Nan Madol is not a city of gondolas and stone bridges. It's a city built on coral and basalt, dozens of artificial islets connected by canals, constructed with stone blocks so massive that their placement remains one of the great engineering enigmas of the ancient world. Nan Madol consists of over 90 man-made islands built on top of a shallow reef that stretches over 200 acres. These structures are composed of basalt columns, that's long hexagonal stone logs that resemble giant pieces of black crystal. The purpose? Well, to support temples, tombs, and dwellings of the Saudeleur dynasty, a centralized monarchy that ruled Pohnpei from around the 12th century to the early 17th. Now, what's immediately amazing about Nan Madol is not just the scale, but the location. The city was built offshore over a coral reef, in an era with no cranes and no iron tools. How the basalt columns were cut, moved, and precisely placed on floating islets remains an unanswered question. Nan Madol was not a village, it was a royal and religious capital, reserved for high priests, nobles, and elite administrators. Commoners lived on the mainland, and at its peak the complex housed tombs, altars, ceremonial platforms, and residential quarters. But what makes it so strange is how isolated and yet advanced it was for its time. There are no comparable cities in Oceania made of stone on this scale. Most Pacific Islanders built in wood, which diminishes over time, but Nan Madol stands as an example to a highly centralized, ritual-focused society with engineering capabilities far beyond their neighbors. Today, though, Nan Madol is largely abandoned, of course, and partially reclaimed by the mangroves and the sea. The stone walls remain silent and weathered, and in 2016 UNESCO designated it a World Heritage Site and added it to the list of World Heritage in Danger, citing rising sea levels and erosion as existential threats. Even now, it provides more questions than answers. How did such a small island population mobilize the resources to build this? Why here? Why on the edge of a reef rather than inland? Was it a show of power, a sacred mandate maybe, or simply a civilization pushing the limits of what they could build? It's a megalithic city in the sea, whose stones have outlasted their kings, and whose mystery only grows as the ocean grows deeper. Number 6. The Longyou Caves. In 1992, a group of farmers in China decided to drain a local pond they believed was shallow. What they uncovered would become one of the greatest mysteries of East Asia, a massive hand-carved cave system hidden beneath the surface for more than 2,000 years and completely undocumented in Chinese history. These are the Longyou Caves, and no one knows who built them, why, or how. So far, 24 individual caves have been discovered, each measuring up to 30 meters long, 20 meters wide, and about 10 meters high. The walls are smooth, the angles precise, and every surface is covered in uniform parallel chisel marks. And yet, no historical texts, legends, or imperial records mention these caves at all. What's even more bizarre is that the caves have stood the test of time without collapsing. There's no support beams or columns, since the ceilings are up to 10 meters high, yet the interiors remain structurally intact. Inside, the caves feature stone platforms, pillars, and bridges. Some have been partially flooded, creating some amazing subterranean lakes. The layout isn't random. The caves are aligned and spaced evenly, constructed in similar dimensions, indicating a shared master plan. At least in one case, 2 caves were found to intersect with a wall just 50 centimeters thick between them, cut perfectly straight on both sides. This means the builders had precise knowledge of spatial mapping, something considered far beyond the known capabilities of ancient rural Chinese communities. So, who built them? Well, the most common theory is that the caves were constructed during the Qing Dynasty or early Han Dynasty. That's roughly the 3rd to the 2nd century BCE. But this is pure speculation. No tools, bone, pottery, or construction debris have ever been found, meaning the caves were not used for burial, storage, or habitation. They were built, then sealed, or forgotten. The chisel marks covering every surface add another layer of mystery. They're angled in a consistent 60-degree pattern and cover every inch of the walls, ceilings, and floors, as if made by artisans working under exact instructions. Some researchers believe the marks may have had symbolic or religious significance, while others think they were just a byproduct of an unknown excavation method. But what makes the caves especially strange is the absence from the historical record. Ancient China was a civilization known for meticulous documentation, imperial records, agricultural logs, astronomical charts. Yet something this massive, requiring so much manpower and precision, has left no trace in the texts. It's as if it was deliberately erased or never meant to be known. They are the architectural equivalent of a riddle, immovable, inscrutable, and somehow still standing. Number 5. Derinkuyu, the ancient underground city. Deep beneath the soft volcanic rock of central Turkey lies one of the most astonishing structures. Derinkuyu, an underground city that descends more than 85 meters or 280 feet into the ground, and it was capable of housing 20,000 people along with their livestock, supplies, and religious sanctuaries. It's not just a few tunnels, it is a multi-level subterranean metropolis carved entirely by hand, and to this day, no one knows exactly who built it. Discovered in 1963 by a local man renovating his home, the underground city was revealed accidentally. He knocked down a wall and found a hidden passage, a passage that led to another chamber, then another, and soon a massive network of rooms, halls, stairwells, and shafts were unearthed. Today, 8 levels are open to the public, but radar imaging suggests at least 18 levels may exist. Some are still sealed or even unexplored. But what's most impressive isn't just the scale, but the sophistication of the design. Derinkuyu contains residential quarters, stables and storerooms, kitchens with ventilation chimneys, a winery, a baptismal chamber and chapels, wells with fresh water, and defensive rolling stone doors that could seal off. The ventilation system alone is amazing. Over 50 vertical shafts channel air through all the levels, allowing people to breathe comfortably even in the deepest of chambers. Fresh water was drawn from wells that extended below the lowest living level, ensuring that residents wouldn't be cut off from water during any siege. But who built Derinkuyu? Well, that remains a mystery. The earliest sections are thought to date back to the Phrygians in the 8th or 7th century BCE, but it was likely expanded during the Byzantine era, when Christians used the site to escape Arab raids. Some scholars even believe the Hittites may have dug the original levels more than 3,500 years ago. Derinkuyu isn't alone either. More than 200 other underground cities have been discovered in Cappadocia, though none are as large or complex. Most of those, which are connected by hidden tunnels, suggest a vast underground network once existed across this region. Walking here in Derinkuyu feels like stepping into another world, a civilization that was flipped vertically, thriving beneath the earth, with systems and strategies that rival modern engineering. Derinkuyu was more than just a refuge. It was a subterranean triumph of ancient ingenuity, and perhaps one of humanity's most overlooked architectural achievements. Number 4. The Submerged Temples of Mahabalipuram. On the southeastern coast of India, where the Bay of Bengal meets the Tamil Nadu shoreline, the town of Mahabalipuram is home to some of the most exquisite rock-cut temples in India. According to the ancient Tamil legends, Mahabalipuram once hosted 7 magnificent temples known as the 7 pagodas. 6, it's said, were swallowed by the sea, leaving only the shore temple visible today. For centuries, these stories were considered just myths, tales passed down through the ages with no physical proof. But then, in 2004, the Indian Ocean receded unexpectedly. During the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, water levels along the coast temporarily dropped, revealing stone walls, submerged structures, and long-lost carvings just offshore. The event triggered an official investigation. The Archaeological Survey of India, in collaboration with marine archaeologists, began a series of underwater surveys using sonar scans, divers, and remote-operated vehicles. They discovered rectangular foundations and walls, carved stones with lotus motifs, rock-cut sculptures resembling elephants, and aligned stoned blocks consistent with Pallava-era construction. These findings suggest that substantial temple structures, likely constructed during the Pallava dynasty, that's the 7th to 9th century CE, do indeed lie beneath the sea, just as legend claimed. But what makes it so fascinating is how myth and archaeology overlap. For centuries, local told tales of the sea swallowing temples. Modern science is now revealing that they may have been right all along. Above ground, the rock relief showcased the same genius in stonework, but it's what lies beneath the waterline that captures your imagination. A submerged spiritual city, a stone kingdom that was reclaimed by the sea. In Mahabalipuram, history isn't just carved into the cliffs, it's waiting beneath the waves. Number 3. Teotihuacan, the City of the Gods. Rising from the Valley of Mexico, about 30 miles northeast of modern-day Mexico City, are the monumental ruins of Teotihuacan, one of the largest and most mysterious cities in the world. Once home to over 100,000 people, this planned metropolis was filled with massive pyramids, temples, palaces, and roadways, and yet we still don't know who built it. When the Aztecs arrived centuries after the city's decline, they were so awestruck by the ruins that they named it Teotihuacan, meaning the place where gods were born. They believed it had been built by divine hands, a sacred birthplace of the sun and moon. The two most iconic structures here are the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. The Pyramid of the Sun in particular stands over 70 meters or 230 feet tall and was constructed without metal tools or any draft animals. Beneath it, archaeologists discovered a series of caves and tunnels, some believed to be symbolic of the underworld or used in sacred sites. And one of the most bizarre discoveries came in recent years when archaeologists unearthed traces of liquid mercury, balls of mica, and even possible microscopic traces of pyrite mirrors inside sealed tunnels beneath the temple of the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. These substances, rare and difficult to obtain, may have been used in rituals meant to simulate the cosmos, creating light and reflective effects deep underground. And then, around 550 CE, the city collapsed. Buildings were burned, temples defaced, and political authority seems to have crumbled. Was it internal revolt, a climate crisis, invasion maybe? To this day, there is no consensus. But what remains is a silent city of stone, Massive, eerie, and alien in feel, Teotihuacan's builders vanished, leaving no written records, no royal inscriptions, and no living descendants with memories of its rise and fall. It is perhaps the ultimate architectural mystery of the Americas, a city of gods built by forgotten hands. Number 2. The Bada Valley Megalith. Hidden in the remote jungles of Sulawesi in Indonesia, far from any major trade routes or ancient empires, lies one of archaeology's most baffling anomalies, the megaliths of Bada Valley. Scattered across the highland fields and misty foothills are over 400 carved stone statues, each depicting humanoid or abstract forms, and no one knows who made them, when, or even why. Some of these statues stand over 4 meters or about 13 feet. Others are as small as a meter, and they have round faces, staring eyes, short torsos, and stubby limbs. Some appear to wear headdresses or helmets, others sit cross-legged like meditating monks. A few show what appear to be genitalia, leading some researchers to suggest fertility symbolism. And yet no two statues are identical, and none bear any inscriptions. They're known locally as arca. These megaliths are spread throughout the Lorlindu National Park, particularly in the Bada, Napu, and Besoa valleys. But what makes them truly strange is that the local people don't claim to have made them. Oral traditions from the Toraja and Lore peoples suggest that the statues were created by giants or spirits in a time long before memory. Attempts to date them have proven difficult. Some experts place their origins around 1,000 to 2,000 years ago, but without any written records or datable materials directly associated with the carvings, it remains speculative. The stone itself, a type of local granite, wasn't found in the exact areas where many of the statues now stand, and that implies they were quarried and transported over huge distances. In addition to the statues, the valley is filled with sarcophagi, large stone basins that once held human remains. Many are cracked or displaced by time, yet their presence adds a bit of weight to the idea of a megalithic burial cult with spiritual significance now lost. Researchers from Indonesia and abroad have begun using 3D scanning and drone mapping to document the statues and their positions, and some hope that future digs might reveal burial goods, tools, or even inscriptions that could shed some light on it. There's something haunting about Bada Valley. The green landscape, it's alive with bird song and mist, and yet standing among the statues feels like stepping into a forgotten world, where one people communicated not with text, but with stone faces that were silent and eternal. They simply exist, unexplained, immovable, and deeply human. Number 1. The Yonaguni Monument. Just off the southern coast of Japan, submerged beneath the clear blue waters of the East China Sea, lies a colossal formation that has stirred controversy since the day it was discovered. It's known as the Yonaguni Monument. This structure stretches nearly 150 meters in length and rises more than 25 meters from the seafloor. Some claim it's a natural formation shaped by millennia of erosion, while others believe it's the world's oldest sunken city, possibly a remnant of a forgotten civilization. One thing is certain, though, no other underwater structure has ignited such a sustained clash between geology and archaeology. At first glance, it appears to be a submerged temple complex, the remains of a city swallowed by rising seas. However, the first wave of academic response suggested a bit of caution here. Most geologists and marine scientists in Japan initially classified the formation as a natural structure. The island of Yonaguni is composed primarily of sandstone and mudstone, which tend to fracture along horizontal and vertical joints. Over time, tectonic activity and underwater currents can carve natural formations that mimic man-made features. In this opinion, the Yonaguni Monument is a quirk of geology, striking, even eerie, but not human-made. Some skeptics argue that the allure of the monument lies more in human psychology than historical fact. Faced with symmetrical, massive shapes in an unexpected context, our minds are drawn to patterns and meaning. What looks like a staircase might be just a series of natural fractures. What resembles a plaza might just be a coincidence of erosion. Without hard evidence, such as inscriptions, constructed materials, or cultural artifacts, science remains cautious. Still though, the idea of a lost civilization, possibly the oldest on Earth, lurking beneath the waves, continues to captivate people. Some propose it's the foundation of a global prehistoric culture, others as evidence of advanced knowledge in astronomy, geometry, and marine engineering. Even among mainstream scientists, this Yonaguni Monument is recognized as worthy of deeper investigation. The question isn't only whether it's man-made, but whether humans and nature might have worked together by adapting natural rock formations or even by enhancing certain features. For now, though, the monument remains a riddle. It's been called Japan's Atlantis, the gateway to Mu and a sunken megalithic temple. It's also been dismissed as an elaborate reef, a geological accident, or an underwater tourist trap. But none of these labels change the fact that it is one of the most striking and unexplained underwater formations ever found. Until more evidence emerges, until archaeologists retrieve tools, establish clear dates, or find links to known cultures, this site is going to remain suspended between science and mystery. It's a place that invites questions, it resists answers, and it reminds us that even in the age of satellites and sonar, the Earth still holds secrets that lie just beneath the surface.